Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. I am back after a week where I lost my voice almost completely. And you may not realize how important your voice is until you realize you do a podcast. And that requires you to talk for, 20 to 30 minutes in a row without, thinking about it. Still not entirely sure what the problem is. That's kind of the fun thing about this is, I went to the doctor and because I woke up and I was just sick and it's just like, oh, that's, awful. Like I felt awful when I woke up and I was like, okay, let me go to the doctor. So I go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't tell me anything, They do the COVID test. COVID test came back negative. They do a strep test. Strep test comes back negative. They do a flu test. Flu test comes back negative. So they're like, yeah, whatever, nothing really going to do. We'll do a PCR and hope for the best. So I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll do a PCR, sure. So, they do a PCR. Tuesday, I wake up, my throat's even worse than it was the day before. And it turns out that it was, PCR came back negative too. So here I am now, day 2, still no voice. No answer as to why the voice is there. So Wednesday, I do go to the doctor for a second time. Go to the doctor. I'm like, what's up? And I explain the situation to him. He gives me some antibiotics and an oral steroid. And I can now speak again. I'm still not feeling 100%, but at least I'm not quite in the state I was in the last time, what I was earlier this week. But because I couldn't talk, and the other thing is when you have a fever, I don't know if it's just me or if there's other people too, I can't hold my focus when I have a fever. Nothing can grab my attention and hold it. So therein lied the problem. I ended up watching Seinfeld while laying in bed for 6 hours straight, and that didn't help. So I didn't have anything to talk about. But we're going to start catching up now. So last night, I watched the new episode of The Flash. 2 nights ago, I watched something that I cannot talk about until Tuesday of next week. So I will be putting up a review of it on Tuesday of next week at 9 in the morning when the embargo lifts. So I'm thinking that since the streaming title, it reflects positively on their feelings towards the show. They're giving it 24-hour review embargo, considering it's less involved. Like for a review embargo, when you look at movies, it's like you gotta get your tickets in advance, set the time aside. For watching something in your house, it's a little bit different. So I think that the review embargo only being 24 hours for this particular show. I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about whether or not I've seen the show or confirm the show does or does not exist at this point. There's so many fucking NDAs I had to sign just to watch this show. Either way, I'm not going to keep it shrouded in secrecy for too long. I'm going to record the episode about it probably tomorrow, and then just have it canned and scheduled to go up at 9 a.m. Eastern time, I believe, is whatever time the review embargo lifts, that's when it will be going live, right around that time. So it'll be up there. It'll be before the show formally releases, and I think it'll definitely be for more episodes than are initially released. So it will be spoiler free, but on top of that, there will also be our usual weekly episode breakdowns as new episodes come out. So it's nothing new is going to be really happening there. You will eventually, it will do the usual weekly episode breakdowns. It's just I'm going to have broad thoughts on the first 4 episodes of this show. What am I even saying? Because I know it's out there already, because I knew they were getting 4 episodes out before I got the episodes from Disney. It's Moon Knight. I've seen Moon Knight. I've seen the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight. So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday when the review embargo lifts. Anyway, moving on. Today we're going to talk about The Flash. I'm talking about The Flash while I'm going to see The Lost City, so we'll have an episode about that later today as well. But The Flash, I really hate that I keep harping on Allegra's story, because I feel like I'm being really difficult toward Allegra, but Allegra's stories are just... They need to do something else with this character. I'm sorry. There's only so many times you can do the same thing over and over and over again, and it not get repetitive and boring, and or feel like you're just retreading the same thing over and over and over again. And it's like, here's the thing. She is, her character is unique in this show. She's an ex-con who got a second chance and is now working as a supervising editor at a newspaper. Like, that's a big deal. And for her to have these opportunities afforded to her, that's huge. And to see her grapple with that this week is kind of interesting. And then for her to get shit on both sides, and then I think, too, for, I think it doesn't paint Iris in the best light as the editor of The Citizen, where it's like, look, this is what, there are other things we're going to do, but we're going to talk about this influencer today. Like, I don't know. That doesn't feel like the Iris that has grown into this person that we've seen over the last 8 seasons. Like, that it doesn't feel like a continuation of where we have been with this character. I'm not a big fan of that departure, where it makes The Citizen feel more like, it seems like Iris is trying to take it more towards, like, a tabloid more than a respected journalistic source. It's just kind of a weird decision, in my opinion. The B plot kind of drags the story a little bit, especially considering that, then, Allegra does the right thing. What is ostensibly the right thing? Like, telling the story of the other person, like the other side of, people who are incarcerated and then they get out and then they're stuck in, these jobs and they need to move forward. And it's like, look, we're just trying to build a life. And that story is more interesting and more important to tell than this, the story of what's going on with this influencer who goes like, oh, I found formal education in prison. Like, I completely understand why she would completely shut down after that, where it's like, oh, that's a prison? Like, she actually was in jail, like Allegra, when we met her. And I feel like, looking at what this show kind of is, especially this episode is all about second chances, I feel like for the moral of the story to be like, I feel like there's a disconnect between what's being done and what is overall done. Like, what they want done and what is being done at The Citizen, where it's like, and what this one reporter wants to do, where it's like, get the fuck out of here. We'll just get someone else to write these stories. Like, we don't need, someone else to do this. We'll hire someone out of college. Like, we don't need you if you're just going to be annoying. And it's like, and that was one of the things that bothered me, too, at the end, where it's like, she talks about how, what's it called? She talks about, why she's doing that. And, the girl went over Allegra's head to Iris and to get the job. So it's like, okay, that happened. So Allegra feels a little bit, not emasculated, but I guess emasculated would be the word, that she feels like well, what's my role here if they can just go over my head to you if they think they have a better idea, and then, do that. And Iris is like, well, I'm the boss, that's what we're going to do. And then what ends up happening is, as the episode goes through, it's like Allegra kind of does the same thing and goes like, look, this is what we're going to work on, we're going to do this, and the girl's like, well, you went over my head. And it's like, well, the person who is above you can't go over your head because they're already over your head. Like, that person can't go over your head. Like, the whole thing is kind of silly to me. Now, as for the A plot of the story, we have the Hotness comes back from, I believe it was season 4 or season 5, where he made his first appearance. And he is framed for murder. It's all about, Barry doesn't believe he actually committed the murder. Everyone else kind of does, because, prejudice based on his criminal conviction, and, what his powers look like and all of that. So, you know, that all is happening there. And he, like, Barry's like, look, I don't think he did it. I'm not going to work, I'm not going to do this if we're going to say that he, like, you know, if we're going to sit here and be like, oh, he did it or he didn't do it, like, I'm not just going to do this just for the sake of saying he did it. I'm sorry. And it's an interesting kind of, not departure for Barry to split with the team, because it seems like Barry splits with the team on a weekly basis, but, you know, for that, and the reason is it would have been Henry's birthday, but Henry was killed by Zoom, so he's just remembering his father. And I think that this is one of the best, you know, A-plot stories in recent history, with Henry, you know, revisiting Henry and giving the opportunity to, you know, to really assess what impact he has had on the team, and on Barry specifically. It's an important thing to address. You can't just get rid of that and pretend it didn't happen. It is an important piece of, you know, the show's history. And I feel like there was it was handled well within the confines of the episode, and I feel like there were definitely, the whole thing where the team is kind of unwilling to, like, do anything beyond, like, well, it looks like he did it, so, like, I really can't stand when they do that kind of out-of-character nonsense, but besides that, I think it works really well within the confines of the episode. What else was there that kind of, you know, there was something else that kind of really bothered me about this. Oh, the nuclear nonsense, like the cold fusion, like, oh, that's, like, they figure out that whoever it is that's killing the metas, and then it's like they go through all these efforts to prove that the guy didn't actually do it, and then they go like, oh wait, there's still a serial killer out there who's killing people with fire, so we should probably figure that out. And it's like they have it, and they're looking at the board, and it's like, you know, cold fusion, and it's like, even if we didn't already know, because it was announced in the media beforehand that Robbie Amell was coming back to reprise as Firestorm, it's pretty obvious, or maybe it's Deathstorm. Maybe he's playing Deathstorm when he comes back. But either way, we've seen a meta with these powers before, and the fact that no one has brought it up is kind of silly to me. Like, not one of them's like, hey, wait a minute, we've seen a metahuman with cold fusion before. We've actually seen, you know, two different iterations of the same metahuman, because, you know, there was, you know, Firestorm with Ronnie and with Stein, but then there was also Firestorm with Jax and and Stein. And like, we've seen this happen before. There's nothing here that is particularly new and noteworthy. Like, it's not like we're sitting here and it's like, this is entirely different. We've never seen anything like this. It's like, well, no, it's Firestorm. It's the same kind of power set as Firestorm. And the fact that, like, we went through all of this stuff, maybe they're just assuming that Firestorm is still dead, but there really is no reason to assume that in the post-crisis world. It just feels kind of silly to me. Like, I'm sorry, it feels kind of ridiculous that they're like, you know, this is something that we've seen before, we're just going to kind of ignore it because we want to make it a bigger reveal when it happens. But, again, we're doing this thing that really bothers me where, like, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, where not even the fact that, you know, we know because of media statements and because of, you know, set pictures and things like that, where we know that Ronnie's coming back, it's not even that. It is the fact that we're looking at this and we're being like, fuck me with the fucking bumps everywhere, but, like, the fact that, like, you know, if they were a little bit more secretive about the way the powers work, it would have been better. Like, because now it's like, when the minute they say, oh, it's nuclear fusion, I'm like, oh, it's Firestorm. Like, the second you say nuclear fusion, that's where your mind is supposed to go. If you're watching this show, and you've watched this show since the beginning, that's where it's supposed to go. And at this point, I feel like the characters in the show are playing catch up to me because I've already figured it out. That's like, oh, well, we've seen this kind of power set before. Now, tracking them down is something different, but at least lay that thing where it's like, hey, wait, this is kind of like Firestorm. Like, it's a pretty, like, it's a line of dialogue that would at least alleviate the idea that, oh, we've seen something like this before, and not make it seem like this is totally unique. We've never seen this. Meanwhile, it's like the 6th meta you met was fucking Firestorm. Like, what the fuck? Well, no, maybe not the 6th, because you had Weather Wizard, you had, who else was early? There were a few really early ones. Weather Wizard was pretty early. I mean, Captain Cold wasn't a meta. He was relatively early, too. Trickster wasn't a meta. I don't know, we're getting off topic here, but either way, like the point stands. Like, you know, within the first 15 episodes, and by the end of the season, Firestorm's there to help out with, you know, defeating the Reverse Flash. Like, we've encountered this before. This is nothing new. And that's kind of a thing that, you know, should be kind of addressed. Like, the idea that, you know, no, we have dealt with metahumans before with this kind of power set. We're not, you know, I'm not saying you have to reinvent the wheel every time, but I'm saying that it would be helpful if you were like, hey, we are, you know, like, this is what we are doing, and we have done this before. Like, you know, we have seen this kind of thing before. And it's not even the first time you've seen a metahuman, or, like, a metahuman serial killer. Like, you've seen this happen before, too. Like, you're not really doing anything new. So, yeah. Why do you keep pulling up, you dumb fucking bitch? I can make a right on red. You cannot make a left on red. You're just pulling up to be a fucking bitch. So, yeah. So, we will wrap up there for today. We'll be back with The Lost City in about 3 hours, I would say. Is when The Lost City will come out. Because I gotta, you know, watch the movie and record a review of it. And then after that, we will discuss The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. And then after that, tomorrow I might be seeing Infinite Storm. Still up in the air about that, but there's a good chance of that. Depends on what time I can get a screening. What else was there? And then Moon Knight on Tuesday, we'll have a review up. And then Thursday, we will have our first breakdown episode. So yeah. So until then, have a great rest of your week.